This is Henry Simon, bringing you another story from my files here at the Missing Persons Bureau.
In these stories of the Missing Persons Bureau, dramatized for Henry Simon by Ross Napier, names and addresses have, for obvious reasons, been changed. In one moment, the search for Ellsworth Aintree. Address unknown. And here again is Henry Simon.
It is inherent in our natures that we should support the underdog of any particular struggle or contest we might happen to witness. In most forms of sport, for example, gambling aside, the novice is favoured over the veteran, the challenger over the champion, and so on. We enjoy seeing the outsider emerge triumphant. There again, of course, assuming that our money is not upon the favourite. Possibly this is because we find it easier to identify ourselves with the underdogs. Or perhaps it's simply a product of our insatiable appetite for the unexpected. But whatever it may be, one thing is certain. We like to see the little man win. Now, you're probably wondering what all this is going to lead. The answer is quite simple, for the story which I'm about to relate is the one which lends itself to the title David and Goliath. It had its beginning for us here at the Missing Persons Bureau on a warm August morning in 1954. I happened to be browsing through some old files when Pauline rang through to announce the arrival of my 10:30 appointment. A certain Samuel Hawthorne. He was short and fat. His hair, what there was of it, was a sandy grey. He wore a bright green sports jacket and a sickly orange necktie. His age I estimated as being somewhere between 50 and 60. His profession I didn't have to estimate, for he lost no time whatever in telling me.
Oh, I'm a showman, Mr. Simon, one of the old brigade.
A carnival showman?
That's right. Been in the business now 50 years, ever since I was a nipper.
Something of a veteran, eh?
Like my dad and granddad before me. It's the only life I've ever known. Touring about the country, living on the canvas.
You had your own show?
Well, that's what I kind of see about. I did have till a few days ago. And what a show it was. Best meal ticket a man ever had. Dragged them in like flies, we did. Packed tent at every performance. And when I say packed, I don't mean just crowded. I mean blistering at the seams. Crammed to capacity so you couldn't draw a breath. What's more, there wasn't no one didn't get their money's worth. Every penny of it. And there's all too few in my game that can make that boast.
I won't dispute that point with you. What form did it take exactly?
Eh?
What kind of a show was it?
Well, to tell you that, I'll have to explain how it come about. It was a few years back when we was down in Brighton for the summer season, me and Charlie Graves. He's just under 8 feet tall, Charlie is, and as strong as a ruddy ox. Well, we had this strongman act, see? He used to bend steel bars, lift weights, you know the kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
Then he'd offer to take on all comers. Anyone who could stay in the ring with him for 2 minutes got a fiver.
Yes?
Well, Charlie being an ex-wrestler into the bargain, our money was pretty safe. No one ever looked like going the distance with him. Not till one day, just near the end of the season. It was at Saturday afternoon. We had a big crowd gathered round. But when I called for volunteers, not a soul come forward. Finally, I upped the stake to 10 quid. The next thing you know, I heard a voice taking up the challenge. Well, I looks down and there he is, stripping off his shirt, as calm as you please.
There. Who is?
His name was Ellsworth Aintree. At first, I thought he was just a kid. But when he stepped up on the platform, I could see he was as old as Charlie. It just so happened he was a midget, a bare 3 feet high.
And he wanted to wrestle your strongman?
Dead set on it, he was.
We didn't allow it, surely.
I couldn't do nothing to stop it. He'd accepted the challenge, and that was that. I did my best to talk him out of it, of course, but he wasn't having any. The only thing I could do was to tell Charlie to go easy on him, treat him gentle-like.
Mm-hmm. So, what happened?
It was all over in 10 seconds flat.
He wasn't hurt, I trust?
The midget wasn't, no. Charlie was in hospital for a week, fractured shoulder.
Charlie?
The little fella tossed him clear out of the ring. All 17 stone of him.
But
in all me born days, I've never seen nothing like it. 3 feet high, that's all. And you'd have thought Charlie was a bag of feathers the way he sailed over them ropes. It all happened so fast it was over before it begun. And the crowd, you should have heard 'em, went mad, they did. Had to get the rozzers in to quiet 'em down.
small wonder.
So we did our 10 quid. But that wasn't the end of it, not by any stretch of the imagination. It was only the beginning. As soon as I paid him off, I says to him, Ellsworth, I says, how would you like to work for me?
You offered him a job.
Well, more than a job. I offered him star billing in a new act. When I see how the crowd carried on, it come to me in a flash. This is the sort of thing they really like to see. Not the ordinary old wrestling match between two bruisers, but a wrestling match between a giant and a midget, with the midget coming out on top. And no fakery about it, mind. When it come to the test, Ellsworth could toss Charlie every time. Apart from being 3'0" of solid muscle, he was a judo expert, see? One flick of the wrist and Bob's your uncle.
Did he accept your offer?
He wasn't too keen on the idea right off. But when I promised him 30 quid a week regular, plus monthly bonuses, he soon came round. Then and there I signed him up. And when Charlie come out of hospital, we put the act on the road. From the word go, it was a sellout. In the very first week, we cleared 250 quid sheer profit. Like I said, wherever we went, at every performance, we pecked them in like sardines. For 3 years, it kept up. We topped every carnival bill in the country. What's more, between the three of us, we made a mint. For the first time in my life, I've got a bank account, and a big one. Same with Charlie.
And Ellsworth?
Well, he's even better off than we are. Today he'd be worth 10,000 smackers if he was worth a penny. And when I picked him up in Brighton 3 years back, he never had a penny to bless himself.
I take it you're no longer associated.
Well, me and Charlie is. But Ellsworth, he's disappeared.
Oh?
Well, that's why I'm here. I want him found, and fast.
What were the circumstances of his disappearance exactly?
Well, there weren't none. He just up and shoved off.
When was this?
4 or 5 days ago now. And here we are, due to open in London beginning of next week.
So from where?
The Emperor's Hall. Got a feature booking for 6 weeks.
I see you're no longer on the road then.
Well, he was till the end of last month. Then we come up to London to brush up the act. Well, I mean to say, we've never been booked for nothing like this before. We wanted to make the most of it, rehearse a few new twists. Get everything right.
But without Ellsworth?
Without Ellsworth, we just don't have an act.
I see. Where did he disappear from?
The Gladstone Hotel. That's where we were staying. Last Friday morning it was. I went to his room to fetch him down for breakfast. And he'd gone. Cleared out.
Earlier that morning or on the previous evening?
Couldn't say for sure. No one saw him going.
He left no message, no sort of explanation?
He didn't leave nothing. Not even his share of the bill.
Have you any idea at all what might have prompted him to depart so very abruptly?
Not the foggiest. He was one of them unpredictable types. I could never work him out.
Were relations between you at all strained?
Well, I wouldn't say strained exactly. Well, we've never been what you call bosom chums, but we managed to get on well enough. The thing is, he was never satisfied.
With what?
With anything. And all the time we was together, I never saw him smile once. Didn't matter how good the act was going or how much lolly he was making. He always looked as if he'd just lost his last sixpence.
Or perhaps the life didn't agree with him.
Well, he didn't have nothing to complain about. He was doing all right by it.
Does he happen to have any family, any sort of close relatives?
Never mentioned him. Never mentioned nobody.
He wasn't married or anything like that?
If he was keeping it to himself.
Do you know anything at all about his private life?
Not even where he come from.
What was he doing in Brighton?
He never said.
This could be very difficult, you know. How old is he?
Oh, what, 30 or thereabouts? Could be more.
And he's only 3 feet tall?
3 feet 1.5 inches, to be exact. Oh, I've got a photo of him here, if that'll help.
Oh, thank you. Rather a boyish face.
Not so boyish when you look into it. Yep. See here, them wrinkles. Well, normally they don't show, only when you get up real close to him. In some ways, he puts me in mind of a little old man.
How did he get on with Charlie?
So. He had him bluffed proper.
Bluffed?
And Charlie was scared stiff of him.
Why?
Ever since the first time he got thrown out of the ring. He's looked on him as being some sort of supernatural being. He's all brawn, is Charlie. Not much up on top.
Oh, I see.
Plenty of heart, though. Give it a shot of his back, he would. Which is more than could be said for little Davy.
Davy?
Ellsworth. That's how he's known in the business. He and Charlie, they get the billing straight from the Bible.
Oh?
David and Goliath.
This Ellsworth must be quite a boy, Chief. 3 feet tall, and he can look a guy almost 3 times his size. A 17-stone strong man at that.
Yes, it does seem incredible.
You sure Hawthorne was on the level when he said the act was legitimate?
I'm not sure of anything, Studdy. I'm just repeating what he told me. He certainly had no cause that I can think of to be otherwise.
Well, I'd sure like to see it done.
You and how many others, I wonder.
Huh?
Therein lies the secret of his success. People come to hear of it, you see, but they've got to see it before they are going to believe it.
To see it, they have to pay the price of a ticket.
Exactly.
Well, we should worry. If we find Ellsworth in time, I guess we'll be entitled to a couple of complimentaries.
Unfortunately, that same issue is a rather big one, Studdy. We have nothing whatever to go on, you know, except... Yes?
Mr. Simon,
Yes?
sorry to barge in like this. There was no one in the office and
My secretary happens to be at lunch.
Oh, well, I'd like to talk to you private, like, if you don't mind.
Not at all. Well, this is my assistant, Mr. Studdy.
How'd you do?
Hi. Well, I'll leave you to it, Chief.
Fine, I'll buzz if I need you. Well, now, sit down, won't you?
Oh, thanks.
Mr. Graves, isn't it?
That's right. Charlie Graves. How'd you know?
Partly guesswork, partly deduction. I happen to be familiar with the measurements of that doorway you bumped your head on as you came through. Which in itself, of course, was a fair enough clue. There can't be too many men in London who are 8 feet tall.
Henry Simon returns to continue this story in just a moment. And here again is Henry Simon.
I can think of no single word to describe Charlie Graves other than gigantic. He was indeed a mountain of a man, and I didn't have to be a Sherlock Holmes to guess his identity, especially as his employer, Sam Hawthorne, had left my office not an hour before. What I couldn't guess, however, was the reason for his visit, nor under the circumstances did I have the slightest inclination to try. Well, now, before going any further, Mr. Graves, I think perhaps it might be a very good idea if you were to tell me just why it is you've come.
You won't tell Sam, will you?
Not if you don't wish me to, but...
He doesn't know I've come, see. He'd bust his boiler if he found out. He warned me not to poke me nose in.
He warned you?
When he told me he was going to come here, I tried to talk him out of it, but he got all steamed up. Almost bit me head off.
Why did you try to talk him out of it exactly? Don't you want Ellsworth found?
No.
Why not?
Because we was better off without him.
Not according to Mr. Hawthorne.
Sam's trouble is he thinks too much about money and not enough about people. We was doing fine before Ellsworth joined the act. We was making enough to get by on and everything was nice and friendly. Then he comes and spoils it all. The money started rolling in, but it just wasn't the same anymore.
You don't like Ellsworth, is that it?
Oh, it ain't, but I don't like him. He just bothers me, that's all. He ain't one of us, never has been. Besides, a little fella like that, it just ain't natural.
What isn't?
37 inches high and he flings me around like a matchstick. No one ever made a dent in me before. But since I've been working with him, I've been in hospital 7 times. Everyone thinks it's a great joke, but there's nothing funny about it. Not for me. All my life I've been a strong man. Now I'm nothing but a tub of jelly. I've got me pride, Mr. Simon. I don't like being laughed at.
Even though you're being well paid for it?
I'd rather be respected.
I see. So it all boils down to the fact that you're tired of being humiliated. You have nothing against Ellsworth personally. You just don't want him back in the act.
Whatever Sam's paying you to find him, I'll double it if you don't.
You're booked to open at the Emperor's Hall on Monday.
I want to hit the road again. London don't agree with me.
What made Ellsworth clear out? Have you any idea?
I don't know nothing about it. I just know he's gone.
He wasn't happy working for Mr. Hawthorne?
He wouldn't be happy working for nobody. Like he said to Sadie once, he don't like being tied down.
Sadie?
Sadie Robson. She's a midget too, even smaller than Ellsworth. Does a balancing act. Was all on the same bill at Blackpool last year.
She and Ellsworth were friends?
She's the only one I ever seen make him smile.
They weren't by any chance romantically involved?
If they was, they never let on to nobody.
Where is she now?
Sadie? Oh, somewhere on the circuit. Probably back in Blackpool. Yeah, August she would be. I ain't seen her since last season.
Has Ellsworth?
No reason he should have. Why?
I was just wondering.
Well, what about it, Mr. Simon? Will you do like I say?
I'd like to oblige you, Charlie. I'm afraid I've already committed myself.
Committed?
I told Sam Hawthorne if I'd do whatever I could for him. I just can't go back on my word.
But I'm telling you, I'll pay you double. I will.
It's not a question of money, Charlie. It's a question of ethics. Besides, even if we succeed in tracing Ellsworth, there's no certainty he'll agree to return to the act.
Sam will see to it he does.
In that case, I'm afraid you'll just have to make the very best of it. However, of course, he has to be found first.
Oh, I knew I shouldn't have come. I had a feeling it wouldn't do no good. But I had to try.
You do understand my position.
Yeah. I understand. I just wish there was someone could understand mine.
There was something curiously touching about Charlie Graves that made one instinctively want to help him. Unfortunately, of course, my hands were tied, and there was little I could do except instruct Study to proceed with the investigation. Ironically enough, the giant had unwittingly supplied us with a lead, namely Sadie Robson, the female midget, who had appeared on the same bill as our quarry in Blackpool the previous year, and with whom he'd been very friendly. Accordingly, we contacted a variety agent in Blackpool, who duly verified the fact that Miss Robson was appearing in the first half of a program at the Blackpool Tower. So it was on the following day, shortly before noon, that Study arrived at the famed seaside pleasure resort. It was the peak of the summer season, and the promenade was a hive of bustling activity, a seething mess of stalls, sideshows, and sweating humanity. On the beach, every spare inch was taken up by a solid carpet of sunbathers basking on the sand, a dazzling pattern of brightly colored costumes and simmering flesh, broken only by the shadow of the great Blackpool Tower, hovering above it all like some prehistoric beast watching over its young. In the massive foyer of the tower, Study made his way to an inquiry desk, where he spoke to the reception clerk who was on duty.
I understand you have a Miss Sadie Robson appearing in the show here.
Robson?
She's a midget, does some kind of a balancing act.
Oh, yes, of course. Very clever.
Well, I have an urgent message for her. Any idea where she might be?
Well, she has a matinee performance at 3.
Well, I'm afraid it's a little long for me to wait. If I could catch her at her hotel or wherever she's staying, I think I...
Just a moment. Should have a note of it here somewhere. People are always making inquiries, wanting to know where... there we are. Miss Sadie Robson, care of the Paradise Hotel.
At the Paradise Hotel in Minstrel Road, Study was directed to a room on the second floor, where, in answer to his knock, the door was opened by the young lady in question. He'd expected her to be tiny, but not quite as tiny as she was, a bare 28 inches tall. Perfectly proportioned, she might have been a small child, but for the fact that her face was that of a mature and very attractive woman.
Please sit down, Mr. Study. I haven't much to offer you in the way of liquid refreshment, but if you'd care for a glass of beer...
Well, not right now, thanks, Miss Robson. I'm kind of pressed for time.
The name is Sadie. No one ever calls me Miss Robson.
All right, Sadie, it is then.
What is it you want to know about Ellsworth, exactly?
Anything you can tell me. According to my information, you were fairly well acquainted.
He's a very fine person.
Uh-huh. Well, were you just friends, or did it go deeper than that?
I'll be perfectly frank with you. On my side, it went a lot deeper. But I'm afraid my feelings weren't returned. I had hoped that we might... Oh, he was a strange man. Could never quite make him out.
When did you see him last?
Last year, when he was here.
Have you been in touch at all since then?
He wrote me once or twice, just a few lines. Nothing of any consequence.
What could have made him clear out? Any notion?
He was pretty fed up with things.
Why?
Oh, he just was. The kind of life he was leading depressed him, got him down.
Did he tell you that?
He didn't have to. It was obvious.
Well, he was doing well enough financially.
That was the only thing that kept him going. If the act hadn't been such a success, he couldn't have stuck it a week. Even as it was, he had to drive himself to carry on. He told me once that as soon as he had enough money saved, he was going to buy some land, settle down.
Maybe that's what he's done. Did he mention any particular place he had a fancy for?
No, not that I recall, unless...
Yeah?
One Sunday, we went on a picnic to Kirkham, just the two of us. We had lunch in a field about a mile from the town. It was a lovely spot, trees and a little brook. Very beautiful. I remember asking him how he'd known about it, and he said he'd been there before, quite often.
Was it private land?
Oh, I imagine so. No one bothered us, though. There was an old house with a thatched roof further along the stream. Probably belonged to the people who lived there. Anyway, to finish the story, on the way back here in the bus, he said something about fencing it off so he'd have it all to himself.
Fencing it off?
I assumed he was joking. And until now, I'd forgotten about it.
Maybe I ought to take a look at this place. How do I get there?
And I'd come with you if I could spare the time, but I've got a matinee at 3.
Well, that's okay if you could just direct me.
I'm probably sending you on a wild goose chase.
Sure, but don't let it worry you. I've chased so many wild geese in my time, one more won't hurt me.
Two hours later, Studdy alighted from a bus on the outskirts of Kirkham, a town some 5 miles inland, southeast of Blackpool. Following the directions given him by Sadie Robson, he then proceeded across country on foot until he reached a narrow stream, which led him at length to a rickety wooden footbridge. Crossing this, he found himself in just such a field as Miss Robson had described, even to the trees that shelter the banks of the brook.
I don't know if you're aware of it, my friend, but this is private property.
The voice came from behind him, and turning, the agent found himself confronted by a man in a straw hat and khaki overalls. A perfectly ordinary-looking man, except for the fact that he was only 3 feet tall.
I don't think I understand, Mr. Studdy. You say Sadie sent you here?
She directed me, yes.
But how did she know? I was planning to surprise her.
Well, maybe you'd better ask her that. She's kind of looking forward to hearing from you again. For that matter, so's Sam Hawthorne.
I'll bet he is.
Well, he's a mighty worried man. What made you run out on him like you did?
There was no other way. I knew if I'd told him I was going, he'd have found some means of stopping me. But now it's too late. I've made the break, and there's not a darn thing he can do about it. I didn't want to go to London in the first place. He knew that. But it didn't stop him going ahead with the arrangements. Not that I blame him for trying to feather his own nest. We all have to look out for ourselves. But Sam's had his own way for too long. I decided it was time I had mine for a change. I've got nothing against him, you understand? It's just that he's blind to anyone else's point of view.
You didn't like working for him, eh?
I loathed it from the very beginning.
What made you team up with him?
I needed money. It was the only way I could get it. At the time, I had no definite plans for the future. I just knew I wanted a place of my own, where I could settle down and lead a normal life. Forget I was different from other people.
Place like this, huh?
I discovered it last year, when we were playing in Blackpool. The moment I saw it, I knew exactly what I'd been looking for. An estate agent in Kirkham put me onto it. It was up for sale. I didn't have enough money to buy it outright, so I put down a deposit, paid off the balance in monthly installments. 5 days ago, it became mine. The house, the land, and everything on it. For the first time in my life, Mr. Studdy, I belong somewhere. You can't imagine just how much that means to someone like me. To be free, to know that I'll never again be forced to exhibit myself as a freak put on show for people to stare at and make fun of. For so long, I endured it as a means to an end. But now it's behind me, and that's where it's going to stay.
Well, fair enough. Hope it works out.
It will. I'll see to that. But there are still 2 things to be done.
Oh?
The first is to marry Sadie, if she'll have me.
Well, I guess you're at an even chance.
The second is to build that fence.
Henry Simon returns to conclude this story in just a moment. And here again is Henry Simon.
On his return to London, Studdy made a full report to Sam Hawthorne, who, needless to say, left at once for Kirkham. He could have saved himself the trouble, however, for Ellsworth Aintree was not to be swayed from his resolution. And there was little indeed that Hawthorne could do, except, of course, cancel the London booking. I understand that he and Charlie Graves have since reverted to their former act, and are now back on the road again. As for Ellsworth, well, he and Sadie Robson were married soon after. A union that was preceded, no doubt, by the building of a fence. And now, this is Henry Simon, inviting you to meet me here again, and for the present, bidding you au revoir.
This is Henry Simon, bringing you another story from my files here at the Missing Persons Bureau.
In these stories of the Missing Persons Bureau, dramatized for Henry Simon by Ross Napier, names and addresses have, for obvious reasons, been changed. In one moment, the search for Ernst von Bruckner. Address unknown. And here again is Henry Simon.
The two men walked slowly up the garden path. Their carriage was erect, and they looked neither to the left nor to the right, their footsteps echoing in dull unison upon the sun-scorched concrete. At another time, in another place, the severity of their tread might have seemed comic. But the time was 11:10 a.m. on the 7th of March, 1944, and the place was number 38 Eisenstrasse, Berlin. Both were tall and clad alike in the black uniform of Hitler's elite guard, the SS. At the front door, they paused momentarily. The younger of the two, and obviously the superior, glanced uncertainly at his companion. And then, without a word, he reached for the brass knocker and let it fall heavily.
Kein Lebenszeichen. Vielleicht ist er nicht zu Hause.
Das vordere Fenster ist offen. Klopfen Sie etwas lauter.
Es ist Sonntagmorgen. Er könnte zur Kirche gegangen sein.
Verdammter alter Trottel. Da könnte er wirklich sein. Das sollte den Halunken erwecken.
The door was opened at length, and they were confronted by a third man, capitalist but also in uniform, the uniform of a high-ranking military officer. He greeted them with a weary smile, raising his hand only slightly in acknowledgement of their stiff-armed salutes. Signaling his subordinate to remain outside, the young SS man entered the house in the wake of his host, closing the door behind him.
Wir werden uns im Wohnzimmer unterhalten.
Wie Sie wünschen, Herr General.
Kann ich Ihnen ein Getränk anbieten?
Nein, danke. Dies ist kein gesellschaftlicher Besuch.
Das habe ich auch nicht gedacht.
It would be wiser, I think, if we spoke in English. Sturmbannführer Wolf has large ears, but his education is sadly lacking.
I always prefer to converse in English whenever possible. It is an inspiring tongue, and generally a lot safer than our own.
Particularly in the proximity of such worthies as the good Wolf.
You are here in your official capacity, I take it?
My duty is a most painful one, Herr General. Reichsführer has ordered that you be placed under immediate arrest.
So, it has come at last. I have been expecting such an order since my recall from the front in December.
You have spoken publicly against the Führer, Herr General. To say the least, it was an extremely foolish thing to do.
I did no more than I felt was my duty. The Führer is in no condition, mentally or physically, to sustain command of both the army and the state. I hold him totally responsible for Germany's present chaotic situation. We cannot win this war, Ernst. That has been apparent for the past 18 months. Apparent to all but the Führer himself. The Führer and the blundering idiot Ribbentrop.
This is not news to me, Herr General. I, too, realize our position is hopeless. But I am careful not to say so in the presence of others.
You are the wise one, Ernst. I always said so to Marlene.
Oh, not wise, merely cautious.
Tell me, why did they send you? Of all people, why you, my good friend?
It was Kaltenbrunner's idea. As you know, he despises us both intensely. This is his way of hitting back at me for the times I've bested him. Reichsführer was in agreement, though for other, less personal reasons.
Dear Heinrich, he was always a thoughtful fellow.
Needless to say, I accepted the mission without protest, in the hope that I might be of some service to you.
It is a little late for that.
Not so late as you might imagine. You have an hour, Herr General, in which time you may do as you please.
You are suggesting that I take my own life?
I'm suggesting you do as you think best.
And the alternative to killing myself?
If you come with me, you will be put on trial before the People's Court under the jurisdiction of the esteemed President Freisler, which means the firing squad for certain, that or hanging. If you resort to suicide, you will merely be saving the state the trouble of executing you.
So?
In a fast car, you could be out of Berlin in an hour. Your chance of ultimate escape would be slim. But a slim chance is better than none at all.
You would risk the consequences for me?
For you and the memory of Marlene. Gladly.
There is the possibility you will face the firing squad in my stead. You realize that?
A faint possibility, perhaps no more. As you know, I am not without influence. My explanation will be a convincing one. I extend you the privilege of retiring to your room with your service pistol. You betray my trust by running out on me. There will be no difficulty. You have simply to leave by the back entrance. You will find a car there waiting for you. Wolf is posted at the front door, so you'll have no interference from him.
And the roadblock?
The order for your arrest is not official. You will be allowed to pass through as you please.
I do not know what to say, Ernst.
The least said, the better, I think.
You are a true friend. I will not forget this.
The stipulation I must make is that you do forget it. If you are taken, I would not like it to become known that I deliberately fostered your escape. It would not go well for me, or for you either.
Have no fears. The truth will never be extracted from me.
Your assurance is all I need, Herr General. Please go now. Time is of the essence.
We will meet again, perhaps?
I think not. But one never knows.
I will live on in the hope of one day repaying your kindness. Good luck, Ernst.
And to you, Herr General. May God be with us both.
It was in the spring of 1952, some 8 years later, that this story was first told to me by one of the two men concerned, Wilhelm Ludwig Brandt, formerly a general in the German army. He had, it transpired, managed to escape from Berlin and had made for Luben, not very far from the Russian border. His subsequent capture by advancing Soviet forces was followed by a 5-year prison sentence, which he duly served in a Russian detention camp, later making his way back to the West and finally to England, where his brother had settled some 12 months before. His arrival in London gave rise to certain publicity in the newspapers. The details of his military career were brought to light, more to his advantage not, however, for he had served his country as a soldier, not as a Nazi. And although he had belonged to the National Socialist Party, his membership had been a mere formality. Now, at the age of 64, he was a free man, at liberty to do exactly as he chose. At liberty, in fact, to visit me, here in my office at the Missing Persons Bureau.
So you see, Mr. Simon, these past years have not been easy for me. At my age, it is difficult to begin again, to start afresh in a new life.
Yes, I can well understand that.
It has been suggested that the German army will be reformed in the near future under Western supervision, and that my services may be required, but this is something only the future can decide. For the present, I am concerned solely in catching up with Ernst von Brückner, the man to whom I owe everything, including my life.
He's still alive?
I cannot say for sure, but there is no official record of his death.
Was he tried as a war criminal?
No charge was made against him, despite the fact that he was a group leader in the SS. So far as I can ascertain, he was arrested by the Americans in June 1945 and later released. What became of him after that is not known.
And you want us to trace him, eh?
I feel he may have been less fortunate than I, in which case I may be able to help him.
Less fortunate financially, you mean?
In any way I can.
You knew him well?
If my daughter had lived, he would have been my son-in-law. They had just announced their engagement when she was killed in an air raid.
When was this?
June 1943. They had been keeping company since 1940.
From what you tell me, he appears to have been fairly highly regarded in the SS.
He had a good brain. His superiors exploited it, although he himself was never popular with them.
His superiors included many high-ranking Nazis, did they not?
They did. Not the least of them being Himmler and Kaltenbrunner. At the same time, I would hasten to point out that Ernst was no more than a cog in a very large wheel. Like so many others, he was for many years unaware of what was going on about him.
And when he found out, what did he do?
There was nothing he could do but play out his part. Unlike myself, he was cautious enough not to place his head in a noose.
He was an active member of the party?
Mr. Simon, we were all active members of the party. We were Germans, and the party controlled Germany. It was necessary, therefore, to concede its authority, and highly dangerous to do otherwise. Not to join the party was to defy it, and to defy it was suicide.
What age would von Bruckner be now, if he's still alive?
Somewhere between 40 and 45.
Did he have any family?
Not that I know of. His parents were dead, and I seem to recall his telling me once he was an only child.
Any close friends?
It is difficult to say. As I mentioned, he was not popular with his SS comrades and superiors.
And there's no one at all that you can think of who might be able to supply us with some sort of lead?
I am sorry, no.
Did your daughter have any sort of friend or friends she might have introduced him to during their courtship?
Well, there was Gretchen.
Gretchen?
Gretchen Fellburg. She and Marlene went to school together. They were very close.
Marlene being your daughter?
Yes.
And what became of her? Miss Fellberg? Any idea?
No. The last time I saw her was perhaps a year before Marlene's death. But she was Frau Fellburg, not Fräulein. She was married.
To whom?
Major Karl Fellburg. He was a Staffel commander in the Luftwaffe. A fine fellow. But it is difficult for me to tell you much about any of them, even Marlene, with any degree of certainty. I spent most of 1942 and a good part of 43 away from Berlin. My visits there were brief. That is until I was finally recalled in December. Then in the March of the following year came the order for my arrest.
So you actually saw very little of your daughter in the year or so preceding her death?
Very little. On the occasions I did see her, she was usually in the company of Ernst.
I see. And they both worked in Berlin?
Most of the time, yes. Marlene was a nurse. She was attached to the central hospital.
What was von Bruckner's occupation, by the way, before the war?
He was an architect, also a qualified lawyer.
Strange combination. Which of those two professions did he follow?
Architecture in the main, although I understand he acted as a legal advisor to certain people. He also possessed an economics degree.
A very learned young man, it would seem.
Too learned for his own good, perhaps. His academic qualifications won him rapid advancement in the SS.
Architecture, law, economics. I take it there was nothing else.
Not to my knowledge, no.
Well, I think I have all the essential details on this card now. Ernst von Bruckner, address unknown.
Henry Simon returns to continue this story in just a moment. And here again is Henry Simon.
Find a former officer of Hitler's SS, last heard of 7 years before. In itself, this was not an easy assignment to take in one stride. For in Western eyes, to have served with the SS, let alone to have held some sort of authority in this organization, was a black mark against any German. However, it was not for us to consider the pros and the cons in this direction, nor to condemn a man against whom no sort of official charge had been made. We were therefore obliged to accept the case, and following upon Brandt's departure, I sent for Agent Bob Hunter, with whom I discussed its various aspects. Now, Hunter, it seems to me that the only person who might be able to tell us something about this, if she's still alive, of course, is this Gretchen Fellberg, the friend of his fiancée's. But there again, of course, we've no way at all of tracing her, except possibly through her husband, who was a major in the Luftwaffe, the name of Karl Fellberg.
Yeah, I guess he'd be our best bet, then. Military intelligence boys probably have something on him. At the same time, I can check up on von Bruckner's record and see if Brandt's got his facts straight.
Good idea. I'll give Major Thomas a ring. Tell him to expect you.
Good. I'll get over there right away.
Well, there you have it, Hunter. Von Bruckner, or more correctly, former Gruppenführer Ernst von Bruckner, was released from custody by the Americans in March 1946, following an intensive but fruitless investigation into his SS activities. Nothing was brought out against him. No charges were made.
He was given a clean bill of health, huh?
Absolutely.
You got no further record of him?
I'm afraid not.
What about this Luftwaffe guy, Major Felberg?
Prisoner of war. Fished out of the channel by a corvette, May 44.
Is he still alive?
That I couldn't say. He certainly survived the war, though. The details of his record and release from the prison camp are all here.
And he went back to Germany?
Presumably. There's an address listed, if you're interested.
His home address?
That's what it says. But these particulars were recorded some time ago, don't forget. The chances are they don't apply now.
Even so, they're worth checking. Is it a Berlin address?
Hanover, 32 Holzmindenstrasse, Manningen.
Accordingly, the following day, Hunter flew to Hanover, arriving in that city shortly before 3 in the afternoon. From the airport, he travelled by cab, bypassing the city to Holzmindenstrasse in the outlying suburb of Manningen. There appeared to have been very little or no bomb damage in the area, and number 32 was intact, one of a row of ancient but neatly kept dwellings which was adjoining the local shopping centre. In answer to the agent's ring, the front door was opened by an elderly, white-haired man with a lined face and a faintly humped back. In belabored English, he introduced himself as Franz Felberg, father of the former Luftwaffe pilot, who, he explained, was now living in Frankfurt, where he was employed as the manager of a soft drink and cordial plant.
Yeah, he is doing very clever for himself since the war. He is a hard worker.
Yeah, he's married, isn't he?
Yeah, to Gretchen. A fine girl. They have 2 small boys.
Well, actually, it's her I want to talk to. She had a friend, Marlene Brandt.
Marlene?
Yeah.
Yeah, good friend. Very good friend. Is the daughter of General Brandt.
Was the daughter. I understand she's dead now.
It's very sad. She is killed in the war, when the hospital where she works is bombed. Very sad.
Your son's address in Frankfurt. I'll just make a note of it.
Is 15 Mühlhausenstraße, Eberswalde.
At Hanover's Hauptbahnhof, Hunter boarded a train for Frankfurt, some 200 miles southwest, where he spent the night at a hotel, proceeding early the following morning by bus to Eberswalden on the outskirts of the city, and thence on foot to Milhausenstrasse, a moderately fashionable residential district which had clearly undergone a great deal of reconstruction since the war. At number 15, a modern red-roofed bungalow, he was received by a blonde woman in a yellow blouse and green tight-fitting slacks. This was Gretchen Felberg, who duly informed him in faultless English that she was alone in the house, her children being at school and her husband at work.
It is getting so I see very little of my family, with cars so busy and the boys growing up. Still, I have nothing to complain about. They've been very happy here.
You certainly got a nice place. But harking back to the point of my visit, Marlene Brandt, you and she were kind of special friends, eh?
We'd known each other since we were children. Her death came as a great shock to me.
You were in Berlin yourself at the time, I believe.
While my husband was away, I worked there for 3 years.
Did you see much of her?
We met for dinner or coffee 2 or 3 times a week.
Well, her fiancé, Ernst von Brickner, did you ever meet him?
Many times. He was a fine type. I liked him very much.
Well, now the jackpot question. Do you have any idea where he might be now?
Oh, no. No, none at all. After Marlene's death, we lost touch. I would not even know if he's still alive.
Is anybody you can think of who might know?
There was his doctor friend.
Doctor friend?
Every week they played tennis together at Kirkminster. Once or twice, Marlene and I went along to watch them.
Well, what was his name? Do you happen to recall?
Rudolph someone. Fleischmann, was it? No, Fleischmann. Dr. Rudolf Fleischmann. He was attached to the SS Medical Corps.
Later that same morning, the phone on my desk rang, and I lifted the receiver to be told that Hunter was calling me from Frankfurt. Briefly, he reported his progress, instructing me to check back with Major Thomas, this time in connection with Dr. Fleischmann. Accordingly, after ringing off, I phoned Thomas, who duly consulted his files, again with a positive result.
Fleischmann, Rudolf Hans, surgeon, SS Medical Corps.
Yes, that'll be the fellow.
Same story again. Held by the Americans. No charges laid. Released April 46.
A month after von Bruckner. Anything else?
Before the war, he had a practice in Braunschweig. Admitted to the SS May 1940.
Braunschweig? Or perhaps he's gone back there.
It's a possibility. But unfortunately, I can't confirm it one way or the other. He ceased to interest us when the Yanks let him go. From there in, he was on his own.
On receipt of this information back in Frankfurt, Hunter was quick to act and duly travelled to Braunschweig, a few miles from the dividing line between East and West Germany. There, through a contact in the city council, he procured a medical register which listed the names and addresses of all doctors practicing in and around the city. Fleischmann's name was among them, and within the hour, he'd succeeded in tracing the doctor to his home in the nearby village of Berstadt. Tall and fair, with heavy Nordic features, Rudolf Hans Fleischmann spoke fluent English.
That is so, Herr Hunter. Ernst and I were both officers in the SS, though we were attached to different departments. However, it is not something either of us would wish to boast of.
Well, at least you came out with a clean sheet, which is more than can be said of a good many of your associates. You were taken prisoner by the Americans and later released. What then?
I returned to Braunschweig and subsequently resumed practice here.
And von Brickner?
Well, for many years I heard nothing from him. I knew he had been released, but I had no idea what his plans were or where he had gone.
Yeah.
And then one morning, about 2 years ago, a little more perhaps, there was a knock on the door. I opened it, and there he was. For a moment I didn't recognize him. He looked very ill and much older than I would have thought possible. We talked for a while, and he told me he was in partnership with a fellow architect. However, he had not been well for some time, and his wife had insisted that...
Wife?
Oh, yes, 12 months before, he had married the sister of his business partner.
Ah.
Well, as I was saying, she had insisted that he undergo a thorough medical examination.
So he came to you, huh?
He had been intending to contact me anyway, so he said. We had much to talk over.
What was the result of the examination?
His heart was in bad shape. He had never been what you would call a strong man, and the strain of the war years had had a curious effect on him.
Huh?
Well, he was in Berlin almost to the end. He witnessed the slaughter, the devastation of the city, of the people. He couldn't get it out of his mind. It was almost as if he blamed himself for the whole thing, as if he had suddenly awakened from a bad dream and found it was all true, and that he had brought it about. Believe me, Mr. Hunter, I have suffered severe pangs of guilt myself, but nothing to be compared with what Ernst was suffering. It had become a fixation with him, a sort of madness.
I see.
However, I told him to take things quietly and get as much rest as he could. Whether or not he followed that advice, I do not know. I've never heard from him since.
And you made no effort to contact him?
Well, I did write about 3 months later, but my letters went unanswered.
Where'd you write to?
His home in Cologne.
You happen to recall the address?
Not offhand, but it will be in my notebook. If you will excuse me a moment, I will get it for you.
The address was 17 Lingenstrasse in the suburb of Staubhofen, some 5 miles from Cologne's busy city centre. A solid stone building fronted by a narrow strip of lawn, it was situated between a block of 4 flats on one side and a children's playground on the other.
Yeah.
Oh, good afternoon. You speak English at all?
Yeah, a little.
My name's Hunter. I'm from London, the Missing Persons Bureau.
Missing person?
Yeah, does the name Ernst von Brickner mean anything to you?
I am Frau von Brickner.
Well, his wife?
I was his wife.
Was?
Ernst is dead. He died almost 2 years ago.
The tone of her voice was flat. She made no attempt to elaborate, just stood quite motionless in the doorway, her eyes devoid of luster, her expression dull and lifeless.
Oh, forgive me, I didn't realize.
One day he was alive and well. The next he was gone.
Oh, sudden as that, huh?
No, not sudden. The sickness had been with him for years.
You mean his heart?
The doctors blamed his heart.
Something else?
Something much worse, Herr Hunter. His conscience.
Well, I don't quite follow.
The explanation is a simple one. He died of shame.
Henry Simon returns to conclude this story in just a moment. And here again is Henry Simon.
It will never be known for sure whether Ernst von Bruckner's acute sense of guilt stemmed from some hidden act of violence or cruelty committed by him during his term in the SS, or simply from the fact that he'd been part of the instrument which had wrought such terrible havoc and tragedy upon tens of millions of people the world over. In view of the evidence to support it, I'm inclined rather in favor of the latter theory myself. Aren't you? And now, this is Henry Simon, as always, inviting you to meet me here again, and for the present, bidding you au revoir. This is Henry Simon, bringing you another story from my files here at the Missing Persons Bureau.
In these stories of the Missing Persons Bureau, dramatized for Henry Simon by Ross Napier, names and addresses have, for obvious reasons, been changed. In one moment, the search for Frederick Lang. Address unknown. And here again is Henry Simon.
My father was a man who believed in getting value for his money. Perhaps this had something to do with his Scottish ancestry. Or perhaps it was just because he didn't like being taken down. However, whatever the reason might have been, its effect was very keenly felt by every single member of his family, including myself. There was the question, for example, of my schooling. No expense was spared. I was sent to the very best schools and given what was generally regarded as being the very best education which money could buy. In return for this, of course, I had to work, and work very hard, in order to justify the investment, so to speak. At the end of every term, when I was back home on holidays, Father made a practice of looking at my books, in order to ascertain for himself just how well I was progressing. If he was satisfied, then he'd say nothing. If not, I was in trouble. Now, I expect you're asking yourselves where all this is going to lead. Well, the answer is that the story which I'm about to relate concerns a certain schoolboy who underwent a similar reckoning with his father at the end of every school term. In this case, the father was an eminent geophysicist named Harold Swanson, and the boy was his youngest son, Anthony.
You wanted to see me, Father?
Yes, my boy. You and I are due for a little chat. Sit down. I've just been checking through your books, a prominent feature of which appears to be a serious mathematical decline.
I got a pass in the exam.
You call 51% a pass?
Albright Harris only got 20.
I'm not concerned with Albright Harris.
No, Father.
Grammar. Fair only?
Oh, did you read my thesis on scientific progress?
I did, very thoroughly. In particular, the section dealing with relativity. As a matter of fact, it's about that I want to speak to you.
I thought you'd be pleased.
Pleased is hardly the word I'd use. Shocked would be more to the point. Shocked. And more than a little bewildered.
You didn't like it?
No, it isn't a question of whether or not I liked it. It's a question of where you got hold of the data. And don't tell me you picked it up in any classroom or read it in any book, because you didn't.
I don't understand it. It's just a sort of essay.
Sort of essay, nothing. It's a scientific thesis that would do credit to Einstein himself.
You did like it, then?
Where did it come from, Tony?
Oh, I know where. I just made it up.
I see. Then perhaps you'd be good enough to explain to me the significance of this formula you've evolved.
Significance?
In relation to the conclusions you've drawn on atomic power.
Oh, it's all written there.
Yes, I can see that, but I want you to explain this theory verbally.
Well, it's very involved.
so involved, in fact, that you haven't the vaguest idea of what it's all about. And how could you be expected to? There wouldn't be more than a handful of scientists in this country today who've even ever heard of it.
Such was the prelude to a case that had its beginning for the Missing Persons Bureau when I was visited here in my office 2 days later by Harold Swanson himself. The date was December the 18th, 1948.
I tell you, Simon, I was completely staggered when I read this thing.
Yes, I can well imagine.
Tony's an exceptionally bright lad, but, well, as I said, it was by far the most brilliant and advanced thesis on relativity I've ever come across. That includes papers by both Abel Rubinstein and Karl Schwartz.
So quite obviously the boy couldn't possibly have written it himself.
Well, he hadn't so much as the vaguest notion of what it was about. The point was, however, he refused to divulge its source. For 3 solid hours I cajoled, I threatened, in an effort to force the truth from him, but to no avail. He persisted with this absurd story that he'd written it himself. Finally, I handed him over to his mother to see what she could do with him.
And?
Well, being the woman she is, she soon had him talking, which made me rather furious with myself for not having thought of the idea sooner.
Quite.
Yes. It appears he got it from the gardener.
The gardener?
At school. A fellow who called himself Lang. He answered an advertisement. It was taken on there about 12 months ago as a sort of general factotum about the place. Tending the gardens and lawns was only part of his job, but he was known officially as the school gardener.
Yes, go on.
Well, it seems he and Tony got very friendly. And to cut a long story short, spent quite a bit of time together. Out of school hours, of course. Usually at Lang's cottage. Apparently it became quite a thing for Tony to visit him there every evening after prep.
He was actually living in the school grounds?
What? Yes. To begin with, the big attraction for the boy was the fellow's library. Or perhaps I should say his collection of scientific books. From what I gather, he had hundreds of them. Everything from Archimedes to Einstein.
Very peculiar hobby for a gardener.
Yes, well, that's what Tony thought at first. But little by little he discovered there was a great deal more to Lang than met the eye. For instance, he spoke 5 languages fluently, excluding English, which he claimed was his native tongue.
Claimed?
Well, you see, Tony was never sure. He seemed to think he had a faint accent. But that, as it may. However, he was responsible for the thesis that Tony brought home. It was copied from some documents found in the back of one of his books.
And found by Tony?
Yes. He was delving about and they dropped on the floor at his feet.
Did Lang know that he copied them?
No.
What about the original documents?
Well, he put them back in the book.
And then submitted the thesis to his physics master, eh?
Who scorned it, ironically enough. But of course one couldn't expect a mere schoolmaster to recognize it as anything but the idle, if imaginative, scribbling of a 13-year-old.
And so in turn it came to you?
Yes. And had I been other than I am, of course, I'd undoubtedly have scorned it myself. But having been engaged in atomic research for the past 6 years, I realized its significance at once.
Yes. All of which, of course, would account for your son's reticence about telling you the truth.
Exactly. But it wasn't so much that he knew he'd done wrong in copying down the notes without Lang's permission. It was more that he was afraid Lang might have to suffer the consequences of his act. For one thing, the menial staff of the school is strictly forbidden to fraternize in any way with the pupils. And if it had become known that Lang was friendly with Tony, he'd have been dismissed on the spot.
I see. So it was in order to protect Lang rather than himself?
Unquestionably.
But who could the fellow be? How could he have got hold of such data?
Well, according to Tony, the documents were in his handwriting, so presumably he formulated it himself.
Which would, of course, indicate that he's a physicist of some genius.
Of great genius.
Have you confronted him at all?
That's just it. He's not there to confront.
Oh?
No. He turned in his job 8 days ago, on the last day of term. I checked with the headmaster. Unfortunately, that's all he could tell me, just that he'd gone.
Without giving any sort of indication of where he was going or what his plans might be?
Not so much as a hint.
And you've come to me because you want him traced, is that it?
In a nutshell.
Why exactly?
Well, I should have thought that was obvious. A man who possesses such knowledge could be of invaluable use not only to myself and my colleagues, but to the country as a whole. On the other hand, if the same knowledge was to be directed into alien channels, it could be extremely dangerous to us all.
Under those circumstances, isn't this more a job for the security people?
Well, technically speaking, yes, but my colleagues and I feel that a private inquiry might be more effective. Whoever this fellow is, we want him handled with kid gloves.
I see. Have you got any clues at all as to his identity?
Oh, not sure. It's been suggested he could be German.
Oh?
And as you know, or may not know, Hitler had a team of scientists engaged in atomic research right through the war.
Yes.
They were on the verge of perfecting the atom bomb when the end came. Indeed, they had perfected it. Fortunately for us, however, they were never in a position to utilize it. But the fact remains they were years ahead of either Britain or America in their research. So far ahead that we still haven't caught up with them. And this thesis bears the stamp of German brains.
You say he had a slight accent?
Tony said he had, yes. No one else appears to have noticed it. The headmaster was under the impression that he was a Welshman.
How did he get the job exactly?
Well, as I said, he answered an advertisement.
Well, surely he must have been called on to produce references and so on.
References mean very little. They can so easily be faked. Actually, he was taken on a month's trial. His work was found to be satisfactory, and at the end of that time, he was offered permanent employment.
I should have thought a German would have found it extremely difficult getting into the country, especially one who had occupied a position of any importance in Hitler's eyes.
Well, difficult, yes, but not impossible. Aliens of lesser intellect are filtering through by the dozen. But for the moment, that's beside the point.
Mm-hmm.
I have a photograph here which I'd like you to glance at. It was taken at a scientific convention dinner at Munich in 1938. As you can see, Hitler himself was presiding.
As usual.
To his right, Hess, Goebbels.
I see. Rosenberg there.
Rosenberg, Schacht, a whole herd of Nazi bigwigs. And here to the left, a number of the country's top scientists, presumably seated near Hitler in order of their precedence. There's von Ferling, Professor Grotman, Dr. Hans Stribling, and at the extreme left, Frederick Langsdorff. Now, you probably won't recognize any of them, but their faces are quite familiar to me. In point of fact, I was in attendance at that very dinner.
I don't see you there.
Oh, I was placed at a discreet distance from the Fuhrer. I've always regretted the fact that I didn't have a revolver handy.
I imagine that's a regret shared by a number of people.
Yes, indeed. However, to continue, every one of Hitler's leading scientists has been accounted for since the war, with two exceptions. Felix Weiner, who was Grotman's assistant, and Frederick Langsdorff, who's pictured here. Neither have been heard of since before the German surrender. Now, at home, I also have a snap of Weiner, which I clipped out of an old magazine.
Yes?
I showed both pictures to Tony. Weiner's meant nothing to him. But when I showed him this one of the group, he immediately picked out Langsdorff. He couldn't be sure, of course, but he said there was a definite likeness there.
A likeness to the gardener?
Yes. In itself, it doesn't mean a great deal, but consider the two names. Frederick Lang, Frederick Langsdorff.
That's right, Mr. Simon. I'm not absolutely positive it's the same man, but it looks very like him.
And you think that he had a faint accent, eh?
He had a funny way of pronouncing his O's. I can't imitate it, but it was, well, funny.
I see. Did he ever happen to speak of his personal life at all?
No, never. But gosh, I wish someone had told me what's going on. Where is he? What's happened to him?
I'm afraid we're all in the dark there, old chap. That's just what we're trying to find out.
Henry Simon returns to continue this story in just a moment. And here again is Henry Simon.
It was Swanson's idea that I should question his son to satisfy myself on a number of scores about which I was very dubious. Moreover, he was keen that I should speak to the boy alone, which I did, while his father waited in the outer office. He was a fine-looking lad and seemed rather older than his years, but he was obviously quite determined to say nothing at all that might in any way harm or discredit his former friend and companion.
He was good to me, Mr. Simon. I wouldn't like to see him get into any trouble.
There's no reason why he should, Tony. As far as I know, he's done nothing wrong, unless, of course, he entered the country illegally, in which case the worst that can happen is that he'll be sent back to whatever country he's come from. But let's not dwell on that possibility. For the moment, I just want to talk to you about his mode of living, his habits. Did he live alone in his cottage?
Yes.
He had no family?
Not that I know of, although...
Yes?
I once asked him why he wasn't married. He said he used to have a wife, but she was killed in the war.
Did he say where or how?
No. I just supposed it was in an air raid or something.
Did he ever happen to mention his past life, where he'd come from? What he'd done for a living?
No.
Did he say what he did during the war?
No. He wasn't in the army, though.
Oh?
He had a lot of scars on his neck. I thought they were bullet wounds. When I asked him, he said he'd never been shot at or held a gun in his life.
Did he tell you how he came by them?
He just laughed. He said he came by them honestly.
What did they look like exactly?
Well, sort of like deep cuts or gashes.
Dueling scars, perhaps.
Dueling scars?
Before the war, dueling was very popular in certain parts of Europe. Not dueling as you read about it in books, but dueling as a sport.
With swords?
Of a special type, yes.
Gosh.
It was practiced quite a lot at the universities, even in some schools.
I wish they practiced it here. Where in Europe? What country?
Why, I believe a little was done in Sweden. But the home of dueling, of course, was Germany. Possibility was fast becoming probability, as one by one indications of our quarry's origin were being brought to light. The accent, the scars, the very description of the man all pointed in one direction. This, quite apart from his likeness to the photograph of Frederick Langsdorff, the similarity of the two names, and his apparent scientific background. At this point, however, it became necessary to broaden our field of inquiries. And with this end in view, Agent Bob Hunter travelled to Sudbury in Dorset, where he interviewed Dr. Samuel Winter, who is the headmaster of Cranberry College, in his private residence on the edge of the school grounds.
I must confess, Mr. Hunter, that I find myself more than a little puzzled at this sudden display of interest in a man such as Lang. He struck me as a very ordinary type of fellow, honest, hard-working in his way, but by no means a person of any outstanding qualities.
Yeah, well, we're just interested in tracing him, sir, as I explained on Mr. Swanson's behalf. Other than that, I'm afraid I'm not at liberty to discuss the man.
Most mystifying.
Yeah, well, at your convenience, I'd kind of like to see over the cottage occupied by Lang. You say you inspected it yourself?
Merely to check that all was in order.
Was it?
More or less.
He didn't leave anything behind by any chance? Anything that might give me some lead as to where he's gone?
No, I don't think so. There were some old newspapers in a cupboard which I left there. Newspaper is always handy to have about the place, of course.
Yeah.
And
before he left, did he ask for a reference of any sort?
Oh, yes, he did. The normal character reference.
You gave him one?
Certainly. He always did his job well, and I had no hesitation in stating as much on paper.
Tell me, sir, did he give you the impression he had another job to go to?
Well, I assumed so. Otherwise, why should he have left?
Well, I guess I'll take a look through those newspapers. There may be something there.
I don't quite follow.
Well, that's how he got this job, isn't it? Answering an ad in the newspaper?
Oh, yes. Yes, of course. I see what you mean. How very astute of you to think of such a thing.
Oh, not really. It's my business. Like yours is feeding knowledge into kid. Mine's picking up the scraps where I find them. November 14th, situation's vacant.
Anything there?
How are you making out?
Oh, no luck so far. I finished this pile here.
November 16th. 15th missing. No, here it is.
I say, this is rather jolly. You chaps must lead a frightfully exciting lives.
We have our dull moments.
December the 8th. Hello. Hello, what have we here?
Where?
This page. A small section appears to have been cut out. Oh, an advertisement for ladies' swimsuits.
Well, let's have a look. What's on the other side? The personal column, huh? Could be something.
Yes, but the section in question is missing. How can you tell what was there?
Elementary, my dear Watson. I just go get me another copy.
Oh.
It was a simple enough job for Hunter to get hold of another copy of that same paper from the back dates department of the newspaper office concerned. And this he compared with the other, quickly locating the item which had been cut out of the personal column.
Listen to this, Chief. It's really deep stuff. The cock crows, the chicken has flown the coop. Be all your dreams happy dreams henceforth.
Is that all?
Wasn't that enough? Well, Chief, come on. You were with intelligence during the war. It should be right down your alley.
Be all your dreams happy dreams henceforth.
Yeah.
Looks to me as if it could be a phone number.
Uh-huh.
Well, the cock crows, chicken has flown the coop business was probably prearranged between the parties concerned.
Sort of like a password, huh?
Yeah, exactly.
Chief.
Yeah?
Where's the phone number, Camilla?
Be all your dreams happy dreams henceforth. That's 7 words. My first 3 begin with the letters B-A-Y.
Bayswater.
Yeah. Now, the remaining 4 could, of course, correspond with numbers. D-H, D-H. D is the 4th letter of the alphabet. H is the 8th. So we have 4848.
Bayswater 4848.
I could be wrong, but it's worth a try.
No sooner said than done. B A Y 4 8 4 8. It's ringing anyway. Hello, telephone exchange here. We're having line trouble. Yours seems to be crossed with a Kensington number. That is Bayswater 4848, isn't it?
That's correct.
The address again?
40 Grogan Place.
A block of flats, is it?
Yes?
Fine. We'll be sending a man around. The flat number?
5.
Thank you. Chief, I think you hit the bullseye.
Oh?
Exactly. Oh, the guy I just spoke to didn't have what you'd call an accent, but just his O's. Like young Tony said of Lang. Hard to imitate, but definitely off-key. Oh, good afternoon.
Oh, come in, please. You'd be the man from the telephone exchange.
Sorry, wrong number.
I beg your pardon?
Hunter's the name, Missing Persons Bureau.
From the description he'd been given by Tony Swanson, Hunter knew at once that he had his man. That is, he had Frederick Lang. But, of course, whether or not he had also snared Frederick Lang's Dorf had yet to be ascertained. There was no denying Lang's likeness to the former German scientist, as he was pictured in Swanson's photograph. He looked a good deal older and carried much less weight, but his features were identical.
You don't deny you're Frederick Lang, former gardener at Cranberry College?
Of course not. Why should I?
Maybe I can best answer that by showing you this photograph. You went under a different name then.
I don't understand.
Your real name is Langsdorff, isn't it? Frederick Langsdorff?
You know, Mr. Hunter, it's an odd thing. For almost 3 years, I've been in an agony of suspense, waiting for someone to throw that question at me. And now it's finally come. I'm almost glad it's over. Yes, I'm Frederick Langsdorff. If you don't mind, I'd be interested to know how you traced me here.
An ad in the personal column of the Daily Chronicle. It's quite a teaser, but my chief used to be with military intelligence. He's pretty well up in that sort of thing. Who was the message from, by the way?
Ilsa, my wife.
Uh-huh.
We were separated when the Russians occupied Berlin. And because of the position I'd held, I knew I'd never be safe anywhere, but in this country or America.
I see.
Now, the arrangement was that I would leave first, and that Ilsa would follow 3 months later. Mm-hmm. There was no fixed time or meeting place. It was quite impossible to know where or when we would be reunited. So it was decided that directly she arrived and had found somewhere to live, Ilsa would place an item in the personal column of the Chronicle, which was a paper we both knew.
Uh-huh.
Well, such was our plan. And in the March of 1946, I arrived here, expecting Ilsa to follow me sometime in June. Unfortunately, before leaving Berlin, she was foolish enough to visit a relative in the Soviet sector and was detained for an indefinite period.
I see, yeah.
At the time, of course, I had no way of knowing this, but as the months slipped by, I kept on hoping for the miracle that would bring us together again. Mm-hmm. Every day watching the personal columns of the Chronicle.
Yeah?
Well, 2 years passed. My hope dwindled to nothingness. I gave up all hope of ever seeing her again. But I kept reading the Chronicle more by habit than anything else, till one day, a little under 2 weeks ago, I picked up the paper, and there it was, staring me in the face. The cock crows. The chicken has flown the coop.
So they decoded the phone number and duly contacted her here.
I could never describe the thrill I had on hearing her voice again.
Tell me, how did she come by this flat?
Oh, she was fortunate. She went to an agent in Earl's Court, and he sent her straight here. And that same day, she signed the lease for 3 months.
She here now?
I'm expecting her any minute. She's out shopping.
Yeah, well, I guess I'll kind of stick around.
I suppose it's no use my telling you I was never a member of the Nazi Party, nor in any way a subscriber to its doctrine.
Well, you seem to kind of hit it off with that old folk, eh?
I was tolerated by Hitler only because I was of value to him, as were a number of my associates.
Mm-hmm.
Many of us were married men, and for the sake of our wives and families, we had no option but to do as we were ordered. It's a poor excuse, I know, but it's the best I can offer.
Henry Simon returns to conclude this story in just a moment. And here again is Henry Simon.
Following Ilse Langsdorff's arrival at the flat, Hunter immediately phoned our client, who lost no time at all in joining them. It was subsequently decided that the Langsdorff should voluntarily place themselves in the hands of the authorities, and that both Hunter and Swanson would stay out of the picture until such time as they were needed. Following an official investigation, Frederick and Ilse Langsdorff were granted permission to remain in England, and Hitler's former scientist is now in the pay of the British government. Let us hope that such a liaison will prove beneficial, not only to the parties concerned, but to the whole of the free world. And now, this is Henry Simon, inviting you to meet me here again, and for the present, bidding you au revoir.